Welcome in those of you watching Georgia, Missouri on CBS. This SEC on CBS postgame report is presented by Belfor, the leading disaster recovery partner for businesses and communities. Hakeem Dermish in studio here with two-time Super Bowl champ and former Florida State standout Bryant McFadden. And B-Mac, Georgia playing that old elbow defense of yours, the bend but don't break, as they shut it down here late. Nazir Stackhouse, the big man, gets an INT, and then Javon Bullard late.
Yeah, I mean, that has been the storyline for UGA's defense the entire season. They might give you a few things here or there, but when you talk about trying to play some of their best football in critical moments of ball games, especially in the red area, that's what they do best. I mean, elbow defense, as Hakeem mentioned, that's what we saw today from Georgia's defense. And then, of course, the timely turnovers. When you look at Mizzou, you know, trying to generate some positivity on the offensive end. Big-time turnovers coming from Nazir Stackhouse. Oh, by the way, he's not a linebacker. He's not a guy in the secondary. He's a defensive lineman with hands, with moves, with quickness, acceleration. Get home, big man, get home. Almost got to the end zone. It wouldn't have mattered anyway because there was an illegal block on his return. But this was a defining moment for me, Hakeem, because if you look at the situation currently there, time was clearly on Mizzou's side. They were down 6 points, 27-21. So clearly trying to find a way to put points on the scoreboard was important, but most importantly, scoring a touchdown. And they had some momentum right there during those sequence of plays, but then Nazir Stackhouse came up with a huge game-changing, defining play for UGA that led to a huge win.
Well, I'm curious what Kirby Smart is saying to the Dogs at halftime, because they have now won 6 straight games when tied or trailing at halftime.
Yes.
So
it's good coaching.
What is the difference when they play sort of a sluggish first half, and in the second half, they sort of come out? It's a little bit of what Ohio State has done, the #1 team in the nation, and it's a little bit like, hey, slow starts, but then in the end, we take care of business.
Making adjustments. That's what good teams, that's what good coaches do. And when you talk about being the defending national champions, every team they play against UGA, Hakeem, the first 20 to 25 plays, they're coming out slinging on both sides of the football. And that's what we're seeing. So when you talk about seeing a slow start from Georgia, you shouldn't take that too much into consideration because it's a full-quarter ball game. And if you're not just blowing them out of the window in the first half, there's a window for Georgia to come back and do some nice big-time things. And that's what we saw when you talk about in 2 halves of play, night and day. The adjustments on the defensive side, starting to see Carson Beck warm up in the second half. The running game came to the party as well, and they were able to put together a complete half of football that led to a huge win for their ball club.
And let's give credit to Missouri, right? I mean, having a heck of a season.
Yeah.
This is Eli Drinkwitz's 4th with the program since coming over from App State. They had 1 loss coming in to LSU. This is a pretty good football team, and something that stuck out to you was their corners.
Oh, they got corners that's going to play on Sunday. You talk about playing high-level football. They've been doing that the entire season, but today against UGA, against the defending champions, you got a chance to see that on a national stage. Not to mention Schrader. I think he's a guy who's going to play on Sunday as well. When you talk about the way he runs the football, Cody Schrader had over 100 yards today, 112 to be exact, 1 touchdown. Brady Cook played pretty good football. He returns. Luther's one of the best wide receivers in college football. He returns as well. So I believe the future is bright when you talk about continuing to add talent to what they already have in place, and most importantly, finding ways to win ball games like they did not do today.
Yeah, and look, they have another tough game coming up next week. They play Tennessee. Fortunately for them, it's at home, and a game that will certainly dictate what they do in bowl season. If we were talking about a 12-team playoff, like we will next season, Missouri would be in the conversation, perhaps.
Deserving so, because when you talk about the East, the SEC East, I think Missouri is the second-best team in the East, me personally, behind Georgia. And we saw what they did today. Even though they lost, I mean, they fought, they competed, and they did so without having their best offensive weapon in Luther Burden healthy. You know, he went out that ball game with an ankle ailment or something of that nature, but he came back, but he wasn't 100%. So just finding ways to continue to add talent to what they already have in place will be important for the future when you talk about the football program with Mizzou. But I like what I'm seeing from Mizzou, and like I said, we know the SEC East was solely about UGA. Everyone else was fighting for second and third.
Yep.
But I think when you talk about the ground that Mizzou has gained, I mean, they're right there in the thick of things right behind UGA.
Well, for Georgia, that is 26 wins in a row, fourth longest streak in SEC history, which is impressive. Thanks in part to their quarterback, BMAC. Thanks. Much more ahead with Bryant McFadden as we continue post-game coverage between Georgia and Missouri. And Carson Beck, look, this kid steps up at the moment you need him to. He's a kid that is able to spread the football around. He's a kid that's able to make the play when you need him. Not that fast, but neither was Stetson Bennett. And able to get it done in the moments that matter. 30-21 the final. Carson Beck 21-32, 254, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Georgia wins its 26th game in a row.